Hi everyone. Based on your feedback from the SurveyMonkey, I'm going to provide a little more feedback as far as APA formatting. There were a couple of you that wanted a little more guidance with APA formatting, so here we go. What we're going to focus on are a couple of things. We're going to focus on a reference list. We're going to focus on in-text citations. We're also going to look at some of the most common errors that I see to kind of give you a heads up on what to really look at, and also accessing the Writing Center. So as I've shared with you before, actually tagging your APA manual is really helpful. So I want to strongly encourage you to do so, and these are the most commonly used pages in the APA manual. If you don't want to tag all these pages, the key pages to tag that will help you out the most are actually pages 177 and then also 198 through 224, and that's kind of a long section, but the thing is it has all the different types of examples for your reference list, so it's very valuable. You may not use all those pages, but really the books and the journals are probably the most used. So I would suggest tagging the table on page 177 that has in-text citations, and then at least tag page 198 as the start point for the reference list. As we're moving along, we're going to do a deep dive here into some sample references, and what I provided you is an example of some references, and we're going to talk about these. So with the books, of course, you want to list your authors. The title of a book is in italics, and that's really key to remember. The title of a book is in italics. And the other thing is, if there's any colon, period, anything that separates the title, you start out after the colon with a capital letter. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's a common error that I see. And then you also want to make sure that you have the city and the state as far as the place of the publisher and the name of the publisher. When we're looking at websites, and you're going to be using quite a few websites within this course, so you want to make sure that you list out the full name of the author of the website. And for many of the websites that you'll be using, it will be a government agency. So how you can find that out sometimes is actually scroll on down when you're on a website, and at the very bottom there's usually some information as far as what government agency is responsible for that website. So that would be the author in most cases. The other thing is that sometimes it's a little deceptive. There may be a name of a website, so to speak, as such, Healthy People 2020, but actually the organization that authors that page or that website is actually the Office of Disease Prevention. So just kind of keep that in mind. Always think about scrolling on down to the name of the organization down at the very bottom of a particular web page. And the other thing to remember is always list out the name of the web page that you accessed, not the name of the website. And again, when you're listing out the URL that you retrieve the information from, make sure that you include the entire URL so that whoever is reading your paper can go directly to that page and find out where you found your information. Such an important thing. Don't just stop the URL with cdc.gov, because CDC, of course, is a huge website and your reader can't track down where you found the information. For the journals, again, you want to list the authors. The title is not in italics. The title of the journal is. So kind of keep that in mind. And keep in mind that also when you're doing the title of the journal, if you have a volume and a number, you want to make sure that you have the volume in italics, and then as you do your parentheses, that's actually in regular font. So just remember, you do the title of the journal, keep going italics until you hit your parentheses, and then it's regular font. And again, it's a little confusing, but just kind of keep that in mind because that is truly the formatting process. And then also you want to include your page numbers, but you don't want to put a P there or PP period. You want to just list out the page numbers. So those are some of the real common things that I see when I'm looking at some of the references. So just to kind of recap, make sure that you're really clear about how to capitalize in titles, and make sure that you're using lowercase except for the first letter of the first word, any proper noun, or the first word following a colon or a period. You want to be careful about the use of italics. So again, back to what we just covered, you want to make sure that the title of a book is in italics and the title of a journal name is in italics, not the journal article. So just kind of keep that in mind. And make sure that you clearly delineate what the author is for organization-based websites. And some of the organization-based websites will actually have authors on a particular page, and then you use those author names too. I just wanted to highlight that. And also, when you're referencing articles or books that have more than 7 authors, there's a specific way that you need to do that, and that is actually listed on page 198 of your APA manual. So again, that's real important. Sometimes you run into those articles that have many, many authors, and there's a way to kind of abbreviate that. So you list out the first several authors' names, ... and then the final author. So just refer back to page 198 when you get to that point. I'm going to stop here for a minute and get a drink, and then I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Here we are with in-text citations, and when we're looking at our in-text citations, it's really important, again, to refer back to page 177, as is listed here, because there's a real helpful table that can help you. So when you're looking at 1 or 2 authors, you always list out first, second, all throughout the paper, the author's names. Both authors' names are the one author's name, excuse me. And when there's one work by 3 to 5 authors, the first time that you cite that particular resource, you want to make sure that you list out all of the authors, okay? And then in subsequent citations, you include only the first author's name with the et al. Format. So that's real important. If there's 3 or more authors, then you always do the et al. In the second citation and thereafter. So the kicker is it's confusing because, as we said earlier, 3 to 5 authors, you list them all out. But once we get to 6 or more authors, you use the et al. Format at all times. So in all citations, you use the et al. Format. And just keep in mind, when you're doing et al, you do ET, no period, AL, period, comma, and then the date. So just kind of keep that in mind. And when you're doing any kind of group citations, the first time that you list the group, you write out the entire title of the organization, and then in brackets, note they're brackets, not parentheses, you include CDC. And then thereafter, you can use CDC or whatever the abbreviation for the particular resource is. You can use that throughout the remainder of your paper. So